The rain had been falling for 3 days when Lady Amelia Vale realized she was no longer free. She stood beside the tall window of the west wing, watching the storm swallow the gardens of Ravenscroft Hall. Beyond the iron gates, the road disappeared beneath sheets of rain. For 3 years those gates had been locked. For 3 years she had been told that she belonged to Baron Edmund Ravenscroft. And tonight, she had finally decided she would rather die than remain his prisoner. Behind her, the door opened. Amelia did not turn. "I heard you refused dinner again." The Baron's voice was calm. That was what made it frightening. Amelia slowly turned. Edmund Ravenscroft stood in the doorway, dressed in a dark velvet coat, one hand resting casually on his silver-headed cane. "I wasn't hungry. You have been saying that for weeks. I suppose I haven't changed my mind." His expression hardened. "You forget yourself." "No," Amelia said quietly. "I remember myself." The Baron stepped inside. 3 years earlier, Amelia had been the daughter of a respected country lord. Her father had owned a modest estate, several farms, and a valuable stretch of woodland. Then he had died. His debts appeared almost overnight. Before Amelia could understand what had happened, Edmund had arrived with documents claiming that her father's estate was heavily indebted to him. The court had accepted the papers. The property was seized, and Amelia, with nowhere to go, had been forced to remain at Ravenscroft Hall. Edmund called it protection. Amelia called it imprisonment. "You owe me everything," he said. "I owe you nothing." His eyes narrowed. "Your father's debts say otherwise. My father never borrowed that amount. You cannot prove it. Neither can you." The Baron smiled. "I don't need to." He placed a folded document on the table. Amelia stared at it. "What is that?" "Your future." She didn't move. "Open it." Amelia approached slowly. She unfolded the paper. Her face changed. It was a marriage contract. Her marriage contract. With Edmund Ravenscroft. "You said you would never marry me." "I said I would not marry you without your consent. You are forcing me." "No." He smiled. "You have a choice." Amelia looked at him. "What choice?" "Marry me willingly." He pointed toward the document. "Or remain under my protection until your father's debts are paid." She laughed bitterly. "Then there is no choice." Edmund stepped closer. "You are becoming difficult. I have been difficult for 3 years, and yet you are still here." Amelia's eyes hardened. "Not for much longer." The Baron raised an eyebrow. "And where will you go?" She had no answer. He knew it. That was why he smiled. "You have no family. No money, no property, no name powerful enough to protect you." He leaned closer. "You belong here," Amelia whispered. "No." His expression became cold. "Be careful." He turned and left. The door locked behind him. Amelia waited until his footsteps disappeared. Then she returned to the window. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from determination. She opened the drawer beneath the writing desk. Inside was a small silver dagger, her father's. She had kept it hidden for years. Tonight, she wrapped it in a piece of cloth and placed it inside her coat. She would leave. Even if she had to walk through the storm, even if she had to sleep beneath a bridge, anything was better than staying. But before she could reach the door, she heard shouting from downstairs, several male voices, then the sound of the front doors opening. Amelia froze. Someone had arrived. Moments later, a servant rushed into the corridor. "Lady Amelia." "What happened?" The servant looked terrified. "The Duke of Ashbourne is here." Amelia frowned. She had heard of the Duke. Everyone had. Alexander Ashbourne was one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in England. He was known for his cold temperament, his sharp judgment, and his refusal to involve himself in other people's affairs. "Why is he here?" "I don't know." A second servant appeared. "The Baron is asking for you." Amelia's stomach tightened. She followed them downstairs. The great hall was crowded. At the center stood a tall man dressed in a black riding coat. The Duke. Alexander Ashbourne. He was younger than Amelia expected, perhaps 30. His dark hair was wet from the rain, and his expression was unreadable. Beside him stood 2 lawyers. The Baron was speaking loudly. "I don't understand why you would involve yourself in this matter, Your Grace." Alexander held a document. "I am not involving myself." "Then why did you come?" To settle a debt. The Baron laughed. You owe me nothing. Not me. Alexander placed the document on the table. I am purchasing yours. Silence filled the hall. Edmund stared at him. Purchasing what? The debt against Lady Amelia Vale. Amelia's heart stopped. The Baron slowly turned toward her. Alexander looked at Amelia for the first time. Their eyes met. There was no tenderness in his expression, no pity, only calm certainty. Edmund laughed. You cannot be serious. I am. She is not property. Alexander's voice became colder. Then why does your contract say otherwise? The Baron went silent. Alexander's lawyer stepped forward. The Duke has agreed to purchase the full debt attached to Lady Amelia Vale's estate. How much? The lawyer named the amount. Edmund's face changed. It was an enormous sum, more than the estate had ever been worth. You would pay that much? Yes. Why? Alexander looked toward Amelia. I have my reasons. Edmund glanced between them, then smiled. Very well. He signed the papers. Amelia watched in disbelief. Within minutes, the documents were exchanged. The Baron's claim over her was gone. Completely. Alexander walked toward her. You are free. Amelia stared at him. The words seemed impossible. Free? Yes. Why? You don't need to know. I think I do. His expression remained unreadable. You have somewhere to go. She hesitated. No. Family? No. Money? No. Alexander looked toward the rain outside. You cannot remain here. I won't. Then come with me. Amelia immediately shook her head. No. His eyebrows rose slightly. I beg your pardon. You heard me. You are free because of me. I am grateful. But I will not trade one cage for another. For the first time something changed in Alexander's expression. Surprise. I am not the Baron. I know. Then why are you refusing? Because powerful men always have reasons. He stared at her. She continued. I don't know yours. Alexander was silent for several seconds. Then he asked, what if I offered you protection without conditions? I would still refuse. What if I offered you a home? No. A position? No. Marriage? Amelia froze. The Duke's voice remained calm. You could become Duchess of Ashbourne. Everyone in the hall went silent. Amelia looked at him. Then she slowly shook her head. No. Alexander stared at her. You don't even need time to think? I have spent 3 years being told what I should want. She stepped closer. I want one thing now. What? To belong to myself. For the first time, Alexander had no immediate answer. Amelia turned away. She walked toward the front doors. Behind her, Alexander watched. She had just refused one of the most powerful men in England, and she had done it without trembling. But as Amelia stepped into the rain, she did not see the look on Alexander's face. It was not anger. It was admiration. And perhaps something much more dangerous. Because the Duke had bought her freedom expecting nothing in return. But now that she had walked away, he realized there was one thing he desperately wanted. Her trust. And he had no idea how to earn it. Amelia walked through the rain without looking back. She had no carriage, no destination, no money. Yet for the first time in 3 years, every step belonged to her. The road beyond Ravenscroft Hall was nearly empty. Mud clung to the hem of her dress, and the cold rain soaked through her cloak. She kept walking. Behind her, the great house disappeared into the darkness. She had escaped, but freedom, she quickly discovered, was not the same as safety. By midnight, Amelia had reached a small village several miles from the estate. She stopped beneath the roof of an abandoned stable. Her hands were freezing. She had nothing except the clothes she wore, her father's silver dagger, and a few coins hidden inside her pocket. She closed her eyes. For the first time, she wondered if refusing the Duke had been foolish. Then she remembered the Baron's face. No. She would rather struggle alone than become another man's possession. A carriage stopped outside. Amelia looked up. A familiar black carriage stood in the rain. The Duke stepped down. Alexander Ashbourne. He approached without an umbrella. You should not be here. Amelia frowned. I thought you had already bought my freedom. I did. Then why are you following me? I am not. He looked toward the dark road. I was returning home. You followed the same road. Yes. That is convenient. A faint smile touched his face. You are suspicious of everyone. I have reasons. I know. He looked at the stable. Have you eaten? Amelia said nothing. That means no. I can manage. I didn't ask whether you could. He turned toward the carriage. Come. She remained still. I said no. Alexander looked back. You are freezing. I will survive. You may. He paused. But you may also become ill. I'll take my chances. The Duke studied her for a moment. Then he did something unexpected. He removed his coat. He placed it around her shoulders. Amelia stiffened. I don't need your pity. It isn't pity. What is it? Common sense. She almost smiled. Almost. Alexander returned to the carriage. I won't force you to come with me. He opened the door. But if you change your mind, the carriage will remain here for 5 minutes. He stepped inside. Amelia watched the clock tower in the distance. 1 minute passed. 2, 3. At 4 minutes, her knees nearly gave way from exhaustion. She hated the situation. But she hated herself more for needing help. At the 5th minute, she entered the carriage. Alexander did not smile. He simply moved aside. The carriage began moving. For several minutes, neither spoke. Finally, Amelia said, Why did you buy my debt? Alexander looked out the window. Your father once saved my life. She stared at him. When? Years ago. I never knew. You weren't supposed to. Why? Because your father asked me to keep it private. Amelia's eyes narrowed. My father knew you? Yes. Then why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to know whether you would accept freedom without feeling indebted to me. She looked at him. And now I know. What? That you would rather suffer than owe someone. Amelia looked away. That is not a compliment. It was meant to be. The carriage continued through the night. When they arrived at Ashbourne Castle, Amelia was stunned. The estate was enormous, but unlike Ravenscroft Hall, it did not feel oppressive. The servants were quiet but respectful. No one stared at her. No one asked questions. Alexander led her into a large guest chamber. This room is yours. Amelia looked around. Yours? Yes. For how long? As long as you wish. She turned toward him. And what do you want in return? Nothing. I don't believe you. You don't have to. He walked toward the door, then stopped. There is one rule. Amelia immediately stiffened. What rule? No one will enter this room without your permission. She stared at him. Not even you? Especially not me. Then he left. For the first time in years, Amelia slept without locking the door. The following morning, she woke to sunlight. A maid brought breakfast. There is also a note from His Grace. Amelia opened it. You are free to leave whenever you choose. No debt, no obligation. She read it twice, then a third time. For some reason, the words made her chest ache. Over the next several weeks, Amelia began rebuilding her life. Alexander kept his promise. He never demanded anything. He never questioned where she went. He gave her access to the library and arranged lessons in estate management. He even helped her investigate her father's financial records. But Amelia noticed something. Every time she mentioned Ravenscroft Hall, Alexander became unusually quiet. One afternoon, she found him in the library. You know something about my father's debts. He looked up. Why do you think that? Because every time I mention them, you change the subject. Alexander closed the book. Your father's debts were not what they appeared to be. Amelia's heart raced. What does that mean? He owed money. I know. But not to the Baron. She stared at him. What? Alexander stood. Your father's original accounts show that he had enough money to pay every debt. Then why was the estate taken? Because someone forged the records. Amelia felt dizzy. Who? I don't know yet. But the Baron had the documents. Yes. And the court accepted them. Yes. Then someone helped him. Alexander nodded. Exactly. Amelia sat down. For years she had believed her father had left her with nothing. Now she learned that someone had stolen everything. Why didn't you tell me? Because I needed proof. And now? I have some. He placed a folder on the desk. Inside were copies of financial records. Amelia read them quickly. Her father's signature appeared on several documents, but she recognized something. The signature was wrong. My father never signed like this. Alexander nodded. I thought so. She looked at him. Then who forged it? That is what I'm trying to discover. A silence followed. Then Amelia noticed a scar across Alexander's hand. You're hurt. He glanced at it. Old injury. From my father. He smiled faintly. No. Then from whom? Someone who didn't want me to investigate Ravenscroft. Amelia froze. You're in danger because of me? Not because of you. Because of my father's case. Yes. She stood. You should stop. Alexander looked surprised. Why? Because I don't want anyone else suffering because of what happened to me. He stepped closer. You are not responsible for what others did. I feel responsible. You shouldn't. Their eyes met. For a moment neither moved. Amelia looked away first. I still won't marry you. Alexander smiled. I know. You're not going to ask again? No. Why? Because if you ever say yes, I want it to be because you chose me. Her heart skipped. She turned toward the window. Perhaps I will never choose you. Then I will accept that. She looked back. You really mean that? Yes. It was the first time Amelia realized something dangerous. The Duke did not want to own her. He wanted her to choose him. And somehow, that made him far more difficult to resist. That evening, Amelia returned to her room. A small envelope lay beneath her pillow. There was no name on it. She opened it. Inside was a single line. You escaped the Baron, but you cannot escape the truth about your father. Her hands began to tremble. At the bottom of the note was a symbol. A black raven. The same symbol Amelia remembered seeing on one of her father's old documents. She immediately left her room. She found Alexander in his study. He saw her expression and stood. What happened? She handed him the note. He read it. His face hardened. Where did you find this? On my pillow. Alexander looked toward the door. Did anyone see you receive it? No. He walked to the fireplace and burned the note. Amelia stared at him. What are you doing? Protecting you. You said you would help me find the truth. I will. Then don't hide things from me. He turned. You're right. He paused. There's something you need to know. What? Alexander's voice became quiet. The Baron has disappeared. Amelia's blood ran cold. Where? No one knows. Then why are you telling me? Because this morning, I received a message. What did it say? Alexander looked directly at her. It said Edmund Ravenscroft knows where you are. Amelia stepped back. And he is coming for you. Amelia could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined Edmund Ravenscroft standing outside the castle gates, waiting, watching, waiting for the right moment to take back what he believed belonged to him. But there was something worse than the Baron's threat. The note. You escaped the Baron, but you cannot escape the truth about your father. For years, Amelia had believed her father's death was simply a tragedy, followed by financial ruin. Now she knew someone had deliberately destroyed her family, and someone still wanted the truth buried. At dawn, she went to Alexander's study. The Duke was already awake. A stack of documents covered his desk. You haven't slept either, Amelia said. Neither have you. She closed the door. Tell me everything. Alexander looked at her. You are certain? Yes. He nodded. Then sit. Amelia sat opposite him. Alexander opened a leather folder. Your father had a secret account in London. Why? I don't know. Did he have money there? Not exactly. He removed several papers. He was collecting information. About whom? The Baron. Amelia stared at him. Edmund. Yes. Why? Because your father suspected the Baron was involved in something illegal. What? Blackmail, fraud, forged property transfers. Amelia's hands tightened. That explains the debts. Not completely. Alexander placed another document before her. It contained a list of names, merchants, judges, politicians, even 2 members of Parliament. Amelia looked at him. What is this? People who owed Edmund money. And what did he do with them? He threatened them. Threatened them with what? Their secrets. Amelia felt a chill. So my father discovered this. Yes. And Edmund found out. Yes. What happened next? Alexander hesitated. Your father attempted to expose him. Amelia's voice became softer, and failed. He was killed before he could. She closed her eyes. The room seemed to spin. My father knew he was in danger. Yes, then why didn't he leave? Because he believed he could protect you. Tears gathered in her eyes. He failed. No. Alexander's voice was firm. He didn't fail. She looked at him. He left behind enough evidence for me to find the truth. Amelia wiped her tears. What did he leave? Alexander stood and walked toward a locked cabinet. He opened it. Inside was a small wooden box. He brought it to the desk. This was found in your father's old study. Amelia touched the lid. Why didn't you give it to me before? Because it was locked. He handed her a key. This key was hidden inside the lining of your father's coat. Amelia inserted it. The box opened. Inside was a bundle of letters. The first was addressed to Alexander. She unfolded it. If you are reading this, then I am already gone. Amelia stopped. Alexander stood beside her. She continued. My daughter must never know the truth until she is safe. Her hands began to shake. The next line made her breath catch. The Baron is not the man controlling the fraud. He is only a servant. Amelia looked at Alexander. A servant? Alexander nodded. Keep reading. She did. The person behind him is someone close enough to the crown to make every accusation disappear. There was no name, only an initial, H. Amelia looked confused. H. Could be anyone. She opened the next letter. This one contained something different, a small portrait. A man stood beside the king. Amelia recognized him immediately. Lord Henry Harrington, the king's most trusted advisor. Her father had written one sentence beneath the portrait. Never trust the man who never gets his hands dirty. Alexander stared at the portrait. Harrington, you know him. I have met him. Do you trust him? No. Why? Because men like him don't survive by making enemies. Amelia folded the portrait. What does this have to do with Edmund? Alexander turned another page. There was a payment record. Large amounts of money had been transferred from Harrington's private account to Edmund Ravenscroft. Amelia stared. So Harrington paid him. Yes, and Edmund destroyed my father's estate because Harrington ordered him to. Yes, why? Alexander's face became serious. Because your father had evidence against Harrington. Amelia slowly understood. And the Baron used me to force my father to remain silent. He used your father's debts. He knew I had nowhere to go. Yes. So when my father died, Edmund took control of everything and kept me trapped. Alexander nodded. Amelia stood. I want him arrested. We need more evidence. We have enough. Not enough to bring down a man like Harrington. Then what do we need? Alexander looked at her. Your father's original ledger. Where is it? We don't know. She thought for a moment, then remembered something. My father had a library. Yes, there was a painting. What painting? His portrait. Alexander waited. Behind it was a small compartment. They left for her childhood estate that afternoon. The house had been abandoned for years. Dust covered every surface. Amelia walked through the front hall slowly. Memories came rushing back. Her father's voice, his books, the smell of wood smoke, the piano her mother used to play. She stopped before the portrait. Alexander removed it from the wall. Behind it was a small compartment, empty. Amelia's heart sank. Someone got here first. Alexander examined the wall. Then he noticed a scratch. Wait. He pressed a hidden stone. A second compartment opened beneath the floor. Inside was a leather ledger. Amelia picked it up. Her father's handwriting filled every page. Names, dates, payments, meetings, everything. Then she saw one entry. Her face went pale. What? She pointed. Alexander read it. Edmund Ravenscroft paid to acquire Amelia Vale's father's estate. Then another line. Instruction. Keep Amelia alive. She will eventually lead us to the evidence. Amelia stared at the words. They never wanted me dead. No. They wanted me alive. Yes. Because they thought I knew where the ledger was. Alexander looked at her. That is why Edmund kept you under his control. Suddenly, a sound came from outside. A horse. Alexander closed the ledger. Someone is here. They moved toward the window. A black carriage stood outside. The door opened. Edmund Ravenscroft stepped out. Amelia's blood ran cold. He found us. Alexander took her hand. We leave through the back. But before they could move, the front door opened. Edmund's voice echoed through the house. Lady Amelia. She froze. I know you're inside. Alexander looked toward the back door. Go. No, Amelia, I won't leave you. He looked at her for a moment, then smiled faintly. That may be the first time you've ever refused to leave me. She almost smiled, but footsteps were approaching. Edmund entered the library. He was no longer the charming baron she remembered. His face was cold. His eyes were furious. You have caused me considerable trouble. Amelia stepped forward. You stole my father's estate. I took what he owed. You forged the records. I did what was necessary. You trapped me. Edmund smiled. You survived. Alexander stepped between them. Leave. Edmund laughed. Your Grace, this is not your affair. It became my affair when you threatened my guest. Guest? Edmund's eyes moved toward Amelia. You know perfectly well what she is. Alexander's expression hardened. She is a free woman. Edmund laughed again. Only because you paid for her. Amelia stepped forward. I was never yours. The baron's smile disappeared. You still don't understand. He pulled a pistol from inside his coat. Your father's ledger is not enough. Alexander raised his weapon. Put it down. Edmund smiled. Because the real evidence isn't in the ledger. Amelia stared. What evidence? Edmund looked directly at her. Your father hid the final proof somewhere only you can find. She shook her head. I don't know what you're talking about. You do. No. You were there the night he died. Amelia's face went white. A memory surfaced. Her father. A locked door. A candle. His voice telling her to remember a particular phrase. She had buried the memory for years. Now it returned. Edmund smiled. I can see it in your face. Alexander looked at Amelia. What do you remember? She whispered. The clock. What clock? The clock in my father's study. Edmund's expression changed. He suddenly looked afraid. Amelia realized why. She knew where the final evidence was, and so did Edmund. She turned to Alexander. The old grandfather clock. They ran. Edmund fired. The bullet struck the wall. Alexander pulled Amelia behind him. They escaped through the back entrance. But as they reached the carriage, Amelia looked back. Edmund stood in the doorway. He wasn't chasing them. He was smiling. Alexander noticed. Why is he smiling? Amelia looked at the ledger in her hands. Then she understood. He wanted us to find the clock. Alexander's expression darkened. Why? Amelia whispered, because the final evidence is not hidden there. She looked toward the dark road. He wants us to lead him to someone. Who? Amelia's voice trembled. The person who has been protecting me all these years. Alexander stared at her. Who? Before she could answer, a gunshot echoed from somewhere in the distance. Their driver fell from the carriage seat. The horses panicked. Alexander pulled Amelia inside, and in the darkness behind them, a second carriage began following. The hunt had begun. The carriage raced through the darkness. Alexander held Amelia tightly against the seat as bullets struck the wooden panels behind them. Stay down. I am. Another shot shattered the rear window. The horses screamed and surged forward. Alexander looked through the broken glass. 2 riders were following them. They're gaining on us. Amelia's face was pale. They want the ledger. No. Alexander looked at her. They want you. She shook her head. They think I remember where the final evidence is. Do you? She closed her eyes. I remember my father telling me something before he died. What? He said, when the clock stops, look beneath the place where your mother used to pray. Alexander thought for a moment. The chapel. Amelia nodded. My family's old chapel. The carriage suddenly swerved. One of the horses had been wounded. Alexander grabbed the reins himself. Hold on. The carriage left the road and raced across the field. Behind them, the pursuing riders followed. Then one rider came alongside. He reached for the carriage door. Alexander struck his hand with the butt of his pistol. The man fell from his horse. The second rider stopped. Alexander turned the carriage toward the forest. Branches struck the roof. Amelia clung to the seat. Alexander, I know. The carriage finally broke through the trees and stopped beside an abandoned mill. Alexander jumped down. Come. They ran inside. The building was dark and silent. Alexander locked the door behind them. For several minutes, neither spoke. Then Amelia whispered, They'll find us. Probably. You don't sound worried. I am. She looked at him. Then why are you calm? Because fear doesn't help me protect you. The words silenced her. You don't have to keep protecting me. Yes, I do. Why? Alexander stepped closer. Because I chose to. Amelia looked into his eyes. And what if I don't want you to? Then I will still protect you. Why? He hesitated. Because somewhere along the way, you stopped being someone I was responsible for. Her heart tightened. What am I now? Someone I cannot lose. Amelia looked away. She didn't know what to say. The silence between them changed. Then Alexander reached for her hand. She allowed him to take it. But before either could speak, a noise came from upstairs. Someone was in the mill. Alexander raised his pistol. Stay here. No, Amelia. I am tired of hiding behind you. She picked up a fallen iron rod. Alexander almost smiled. Very well. They moved upstairs together. A shadow appeared. Alexander aimed. Stop. The figure stepped into the moonlight. Amelia gasped. Mr. Clark. The old family solicitor lowered his weapon. Lady Amelia. She ran toward him. You're alive. I have been hiding for years. Why? Because your father ordered me to. Alexander approached. Were you the one protecting her? Clark nodded. I tried. Amelia stared at him. You sent the letters. Some of them. The warnings. Yes. Why didn't you come for me? I couldn't. Why? Clark looked at Alexander. Because I was being watched. He then turned toward Amelia. Your father knew the Baron would eventually take control of the estate. Then why did he allow it? He didn't. Clark handed her a sealed envelope. He planned to expose them. Amelia opened it. Inside was a final letter. My darling Amelia, if you are reading this, then the people I feared have finally reached you. Do not trust Edmund. Do not trust Harrington. But most importantly, do not trust the person who claims to have saved you. Amelia stopped. Her eyes moved to Alexander. He immediately noticed. What is it? She handed him the letter. He read it. His expression changed. Clark spoke quietly. Your father never named the person. Why? Because he didn't know who had betrayed him. Amelia's face became pale. Alexander lowered the letter. You think I betrayed your father? No. But you are wondering. She hesitated. I don't know what to believe anymore. Alexander nodded slowly. That is fair. He stepped back. I won't ask you to trust me. Amelia looked at him. But I want to. His voice softened. I know. Clark interrupted. We don't have much time. He spread a map across the table. Tomorrow night, Lord Harrington will meet Edmund at the old chapel. Why? They believe the final evidence is hidden there. Amelia understood. And they think I know how to find it. Yes. Alexander looked at the map. Then we let them believe it. Clark stared. You want to use yourself as bait? No. Alexander looked at Amelia. We use the evidence. The plan was simple. They would return to the chapel. Amelia would pretend she remembered the hiding place. Clark would remain hidden nearby with the original documents. Alexander would confront Harrington. But Amelia had one condition. No one gets killed unless there is no other choice. Alexander looked at her. You're protecting them. No. She looked at the pistol in his hand. I am protecting the man I don't want to become. Alexander stared at her. Then slowly lowered the weapon. I promise. The following evening, they returned to the old chapel. The sky was dark. The wind howled through the trees. Amelia stood beside the grandfather clock. Alexander remained several feet away. Clark was hidden behind the ruined wall. Then footsteps sounded. Edmund entered. Harrington followed. Amelia's heart pounded. Edmund smiled. You remembered. Yes. Where is it? She pointed toward the clock. Behind it. Harrington approached. He opened the hidden compartment. Inside was an empty box. His expression changed. Where is the evidence? Amelia smiled. You tell me. Edmund grabbed her arm. Alexander stepped forward. Take your hands off my wife. Edmund laughed. Wife? Amelia looked at Alexander. He had never called her that before, not once. Edmund's grip tightened. She isn't yours. Alexander's voice became dangerously calm. She chooses where she belongs. Harrington suddenly pulled a pistol. Enough. He aimed at Alexander. Give me the ledger. Alexander raised his hands. You don't want the ledger. Then what do I want? The truth. Harrington frowned. A voice came from behind him. The truth is already here. Clark stepped into the light. Harrington froze. You. Clark held up the original documents. Every payment, every forged signature, every order. Edmund's face turned white. Harrington fired. Clark fell. No, Amelia screamed. Alexander moved instantly. He struck Harrington's arm, sending the pistol flying. Edmund attacked Alexander. The two men crashed against the wooden pews. Amelia grabbed the fallen weapon. She aimed it at Edmund. Stop. Edmund froze. Alexander stood behind him, bleeding from the forehead. Amelia's hands shook. Edmund smiled. You won't shoot me. No. She lowered the pistol. Because I promised him I wouldn't become like you. Alexander looked at her. Edmund suddenly lunged. Alexander tackled him. The chapel doors burst open. Royal guards rushed inside. Harrington was arrested. Edmund was dragged away. Clark was wounded but alive. The evidence was finally in the king's hands. But as Amelia looked at Alexander, she realized something. The danger was over. Yet she had never felt more afraid, because now there was nothing standing between them. No baron, no contract, no debt, no excuse. Alexander walked toward her. You're free. She looked at him. I know. You can leave whenever you want. I know. You can return to your father's estate. Yes. He hesitated. Then what will you do? Amelia looked at him for a long moment. I don't know. Alexander nodded. Whatever you choose, I will respect it. He turned away. Amelia suddenly caught his hand. Alexander. He stopped. She whispered. Don't walk away yet. He turned back. Their eyes met, and for the first time, Amelia knew exactly what she wanted. But she wasn't ready to say it. Not yet, because she had spent too many years being forced into decisions. This time, the choice would be hers. And Alexander would have to wait for it. 3 weeks passed after the arrests. The newspapers called it the greatest scandal to reach the county in decades. Lord Harrington was stripped of his position and imprisoned while the Crown investigated the full extent of his crimes. Edmund Ravenscroft lost everything. His estates were seized, his accounts were frozen, and the contracts he had used to control Amelia's family were declared fraudulent. Most importantly, Amelia's father's name was cleared. His estate was returned to her. For the first time in years, Amelia possessed something she had almost forgotten how to hold. Her own future. She could go anywhere, do anything, marry no one. She could live at her father's estate and rebuild the life that had been stolen from her. Or she could leave England entirely. Alexander never asked what she had decided. That was the strangest part. He simply gave her space. He returned to Ashbourne Castle and buried himself in his work. No letters, no visits, no pressure. Amelia spent several days at her restored family estate. The servants had returned. The gardens were being repaired. Her father's study had been cleaned. Everything should have felt perfect, but it didn't, because every room reminded her of Alexander. The library where he had uncovered the forged documents. The old road where he had rescued her. The chapel where he had promised not to become like the men who had hurt her. And the quiet moments when he had looked at her as if she were not something to possess, but someone whose choices mattered. One evening, Amelia entered her father's study. On the desk was the old ledger. She opened it. A folded piece of paper slipped from between the pages. She unfolded it. Her father's handwriting appeared. My darling Amelia, if you have reached this page, then you are free. There is only one thing I want you to remember. Freedom is not simply the absence of chains. Freedom is having someone beside you who would never put them back on. Amelia read the words again. Then she began to cry. She finally understood. Her father had not wanted her to live alone. He had wanted her to live by choice. And there was only one man who had given her that choice without asking for anything in return. Alexander. The next morning, Amelia ordered her carriage. "Where are we going, my lady?" the driver asked. "Ashbourne Castle." The carriage arrived just before sunset. Alexander was in the garden when he saw her. He stopped. For a moment neither spoke. Then he walked toward her. "Amelia." She smiled. "Hello, Your Grace. You came." "I did." "Why?" She looked at him. "Because I have something to say." He waited. "I have been thinking about the marriage proposal you made that night." Alexander's expression became serious. "You don't have to answer it." "I know. I meant what I said. You are free." "I know. You can leave whenever you want." "I know." "Then." She stepped closer. "I don't want to leave." Alexander stared at her. "Why?" Amelia smiled through the tears in her eyes. "Because I finally realized something." "What?" "I don't want a husband who owns me." Alexander's eyes softened. "I know. I don't want a duke who decides my future. I know. I don't want a man who rescues me and then expects me to repay him. I know." She took his hand. "I want a man who stands beside me while I choose my own life." Alexander's fingers tightened around hers. "And you believe I can be that man?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because you already were." For the first time, Alexander looked completely overwhelmed. "You're saying yes?" Amelia laughed softly. "Yes." He stepped closer. "But this time, I want you to understand something." "What?" "If you ever change your mind, I won't." "You don't know that." She smiled. "Then if I ever do, you will let me go. Immediately. And you won't hate me." "Never." She looked into his eyes. "Then yes, Alexander, I will marry you." He pulled her gently into his arms. Amelia rested her head against his chest. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Alexander whispered, "You have no idea how long I've wanted to hear that." She looked up. "You could have told me. I was afraid." "You?" He smiled. "Even dukes have fears." "What were you afraid of?" "Loving someone who would never choose me." Amelia's heart softened. "I chose you. Yes. Not because you bought my freedom. I know. Not because you saved me. I know. Not because I owed you anything." He touched her cheek. "I know. Because I love you." Alexander closed his eyes for a moment. Then he kissed her forehead. Their wedding took place 2 months later. It was nothing like the marriage Amelia had once feared. There were no contracts forcing her hand, no debts, no threats, no man standing over her telling her what she must become. When she walked down the aisle, she did so because she wanted to. And when Alexander took her hand, he did not hold it like a possession. He held it like a promise. The ceremony ended beneath a clear summer sky. Later, as they stood together on the steps of Ashbourne Castle, Amelia looked toward the gardens. "I never thought I would be happy here." Alexander smiled. "Neither did I." She turned toward him. "What did you think would happen?" "I thought I would buy your freedom." "And?" "I did." She smiled. "But I never expected you to give me something far more valuable." "What?" He looked at her. "Your heart." Amelia laughed. "You didn't buy that." "No." He kissed her hand. "You gave it to me." Years later, people would tell the story differently. Some would say the Duke of Ashbourne had rescued a helpless woman from a cruel baron. Others would say he bought her freedom because he had fallen in love with her at first sight. But Amelia always corrected them. "He did not save me so I could belong to him." She would smile. "He saved me so I could belong to myself." And that was the truth. The Duke had bought her freedom, but he never bought her love. She gave him that freely, by choice. And that made all the difference. Because the greatest love stories are not about being rescued and then claimed. They are about two people meeting as equals and choosing each other freely every single day.